Okay, so I just thought of this song for the show. It's a theme song. Listen.
Right now?
Yeah, go.
Kurt has kids and an SUV.
Joey scans Reddit obsessively.
But we share music and a chromosome. It's a romance built to last and last. Dudes of future past. Dudes of future past. Kurt and Joey's podcast. Dudes of future past.
There was the theme song, Dudes of Future Past. So you're listening now and you're like, oh, thank God these guys finally put out a new podcast. Well, A, yes, it's a new podcast. B, we still are a past cast. This is me, Kurt Long, 43 years old. It's May 23rd, 2017. Joey and I have been in contact, but he is still on a grueling shooting schedule for his film for Netflix alongside David Spade. And he's having a great time on the East Coast, my hometown or home state of Massachusetts. But we have not been able to coordinate a good enough time to record, and it's really been frustrating. But we've been texting a lot. He sends his love. He wanted to let everybody know that he's really bummed that we have not been able to Skype in a phone call. I'm a little bummed. I spent $25 on a Skype program that records podcasts specifically for this reason, and we have not been able to use it. So even when he gets back, I'm going to tell him, don't show up, just Skype from far away. So, but yeah, he's
dead to us.
He is dead to us. That voice you hear, he's also a past guy. He would be, you're a Gen Xer, right? Brad MacDonald?
Yeah, barely, but yeah.
You're a Gen Xer?
Still a Gen Xer.
Actor, friend, and Lover. In case my wife's not listening, lover. Brad and I go way back, about 11, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
We met in Australia.
Yeah.
That was not a great Australian accent that I did.
Hello, Governor.
Hello, Governor. I'm from Australia. Is that right? Are you from Australia?
Let's throw a shrimp on the barbie.
We were doing a Dell campaign for the computer company.
That's right.
And Brad and I were like Letterman and Schaefer on a talk show.
I was the
host.
musical director.
Yeah, I was the talk show host.
And you were
Davis.
Davis.
And it was great for the 14 spots that we recorded or whatever we did, and
free first-class trip to Sydney,
Qantas?
Australia.
Yeah, right.
That was fantastic.
What an amazing time.
I
We
sat
have a lot
next
to be thankful
Toni
for.
Collette.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Where is she at now? I haven't heard her from her in a while.
She's still working, right?
I think so.
Didn't she have a TV show where she was multiple personalities?
Yes, you're right. She did. Nurse Jackie. No, that's not. It wasn't Nurse Jackie. So we're doing a past cast, mainly because Joey's not here. I feel bad about that. We want to satiate our friends, and a lot's been happening. I could get into.
Well, I am technically older than you, so we could do
a future past. You could be like,
past,
you could tell me what it's like to be a couple years older.
Just a couple years.
You know, when I was your age, I also was getting gray hairs.
When I was going into high school and you were still in junior high school.
Oh.
How different our lives were.
Well, we'd both be in junior high school, wouldn't we? You were about to go into high school.
Yeah.
We're not that far apart, right?
What are you, 3 years?
What are you? 46?
Yeah,
I'll be 44 in July.
Yeah.
The double fours. So birthday presents are welcome, fans. Thank you.
Or Christmas presents on his birthday.
I would love Christmas presents on my birthday, too. We don't know when Lord Jesus Christ was actually born.
That's right. Everybody loves Christmas.
Everybody says it was December, but we don't know for sure. So let's get to it. I wanted to just basically get this podcast out, mainly because, I haven't talked to you fans and folks and listeners. Fans sounds like a weird thing.
I'm a fan.
Listeners, thank you.
There's at least one fan.
There's one fan in the room. So I want to tell the listeners, hello. We're still trying to get podcasts going. Hopefully Joey will be done soon, or at least find a way to make a recording with me.
Yeah.
Or this is the last podcast you'll ever hear with us mentioning his fucking name.
He could turn down roles and give them to me, and then he'll have
could
plenty
do that
of time
exactly
for the podcast.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really happy for him. I'm psyched. I know he's it's tough to be away from home that long.
What's his project? What is this thing?
It's a Happy Madison production.
Oh.
Adam Sandler produced. He is playing David Spade as one of the stars. Joey's like the lead or one of the leads. He plays David Spade's son.
Awesome.
And I think it's like one of those. Nat Faxon is in it. Do you know Nat Faxon? He won an Oscar for writing a film, The Descendants, or something like that.
Oh wow.
But he is. He's playing David Spade's kid, and is one of those my dad can beat up your dad sort of. I guess that's the premise, and then it turns into a whole thing of.
It's great. He goes from Descendants to that.
He didn't write this, but it's like I think he's in it. But it's a comedy. He was a groundling, It's
Let's
funny.
take the whole podcast to talk about Descendants.
Let's just talk about George
Clooney,
Hawaii,
dead wife,
the native people, the cheating. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, go out and watch it. It's
actually great.
Good film. And I hope that's the right film, right? It was Descendants. I think they won an Oscar for. So this is a big week in a lot of ways for me, and especially for a past guy. Dealing with death.
Yeah.
Chris Cornell.
Oh my gosh.
One of my, that's part of my youth, such a big part of my youth and my upbringing, like the essence of my being was listening to that Soundgarden, Nirvana, Jane's Addiction, like all the, like when my like 18 to 25-year-old range of like the music that came out during that time really struck me.
Has anybody called Eddie Vedder, check up on him?
I don't know where Eddie Vedder's. Okay. I hope he is.
Give him a hug, tell him we love him. And everything's going to be
okay. She said, have I got a little story for you? What you thought was your daddy was nothing but a...
Anyway, that's mini audio theater. But
back to Chris Cornell.
Back to Chris Cornell.
Killer voice.
Just amazing.
Really original, dynamic, compelling frontman, singer, songwriter,
beautiful human
musician.
Being from all
good-looking dude,
good-looking guy. From all reports from people I know who actually worked with him, I dated a girl in college actually who worked in publicity for the Lollapalooza tour that they were on.
Did Soundgarden played Lollapalooza?
They did one of the Lollapalooza tours.
I went to the very first Lollapalooza.
Yeah, that was Jane's Addiction and.
But I think you're right.
Was
I think
that
they played
Ice-T?
the second or third. Ice-T played the first one.
Cop Killer and all that stuff.
Ministry, I believe.
Ministry, yeah.
Living Color.
Living Color. Wow, yeah. And where are they? They're still touring, actually.
I am the cult of.
I'm the cult of personality. Ask not what your country can do for you. Anyway, so Chris Cornell, I was so, it was funny part, I was definitely into Nirvana and all that back then, and but I was a huge Guns N' Roses fan, going like from transitioning from high school, sort of my less elevated education into music. I knew what I knew in my small town. Were
we in college at the time of Use Your Illusion? When was that?
Yes, because that came out my freshman year of college, so you would have already been in there already. But that's what I liked Guns N' Roses, and when it was in college, in Emerson College in Boston, I remember I had no money. I mean, I had a little part-time job, but I got they were giving away credit cards. At the colleges, because they're like, get these guys early.
They set up the table and get you.
Let's get you in debt, son.
Jacking up the credit card debt.
So I remember getting an American Express card that was at the time. It was a not a debit card. What do they call it? Not a credit card, but
I think I still have it.
What it was?
Yours, not mine.
Yeah, but it was like what's the term? It was not a credit card, because you actually had to pay it in full.
Yeah, like I guess it would be a debit card or almost a prepaid card.
It was something like, it was like $500. Like I forgot what amount. I think I got $500 credit limit, and it was like, and you had to pay it in full.
Okay.
So then when Guns N' Roses tickets went on sale, I was like, I got a credit card, and I went all out. I got second row for the Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion tour.
Wow.
My brother Kyle and I went, and he was still in high school at the time, and we went to Worcester Centrum to see Guns N' Roses, and opening up for them was Soundgarden.
No way.
And they just released Bad Motorfinger, that album, and I knew a little bit about them, but I wasn't like a huge fan.
Good album too.
But holy crap,
Super Unknown is what everybody.
Super Unknown,
knows
that's a huge one.
That's
but Bad Motorfinger has so much great shit on it.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ Pose, Outshined, Rusty Cage, like all that stuff. But it was rock, but it was a little bit more elevated. It had that driving sort of like you could get your aggro teen stuff out, but you could also there was a little more depth to it.
Yep.
And it was amazing because we to see them live.
And an
second
argument
row
could be made that Chris Cornell is a better singer.
Oh,
than
yeah.
Axl Rose.
Oh, definitely.
Different.
I think so.
I mean, maybe different. But for me, he has more range. Especially if you look at some of the acoustic shows that he did.
Oh, everything since,
in the last few years.
Cover of Billie Jean.
Yeah.
is amazing. You go back and look at it. He sang Ave Maria. I remember
man.
back for
Dude had
Christmas
some
album.
pipes.
Just incredible. Yeah, if you have a chance, there's a songbook thing. He did an acoustic show, and he did Imagine. John Lennon's Imagine, or Beatles' Imagine, and it was really. It's really, and it.
You were right the first time, John Lennon.
John Lennon. It is John Lennon.
Paul McCartney had nothing
Imagine
to do
all
with
the people. I'm doing
living
such a great job.
Life in
Peace.
peace.
You may say I'm a dreamer. And Chris Cornell was a dreamer.
He was a dreamer.
Brad, like we're bad radio, where all of a sudden we're like NPR. You know, that reminds me. Chris Cornell was a dreamer.
was all about dreams.
He was dreaming all the time.
He was dreaming all the time, and he encouraged others to dream.
That's
what we'll do.
And that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to cue up. This is off the Singles soundtrack. Not a lot of people knew it. Yeah, he appeared in the film.
They're re-releasing that, too, with a bunch of extra tunes.
And there's a song, Seasons.
Perfect timing.
He did. Listen, I mean, we're not going to go through the whole thing. I just know that everybody, and if you're a fan of Chris Cornell also, I know not too long ago I had a conversation with somebody about, like, great vocalists and whatever of our time, or if there are any rock bands left, and well, you got Foo Fighters. I mean, Soundgarden's still touring, blah blah blah. And they're like, and I kind of had that thought at the time. I didn't think Chris Cornell got the credit he deserved, because
Eddie Vedder got a lot of the love. Kurt Cobain, obviously.
Yeah, it seemed like Chris Cornell was a little, maybe he shied away from the spotlight. Maybe that was his own design. Seems like it. But he was. I mean, you got the Soundgarden.
Yep.
Temple of the Dog. That I'm Going Hungry. I mean, who doesn't know that one?
I'm going hungry.
I'm going hungry.
Audio Slave.
I don't mind stealing, but Audio Slave. Yeah. Then to leave Soundgarden and go into Audio Slave, which had some really great tunes as well.
And right before you started this podcast, we were talking about his solo career.
Yeah.
You know,
and his solo stuff.
Euphoria album.
Euphoria Morning. If you haven't heard it, go out and grab that. It's an amazing solo album. A lot of great stuff. A big departure from Soundgarden, but just really took advantage of his vocals, and it's really beautiful. And he's done a lot of other great stuff too. So, and you could tell from his lyrics there was a troubled soul in there. There was a lot of dark references. Soundgarden is a burden in my hand, pretty noose.
I mean, he sings about suicide.
Fell on black days. Yeah, all that stuff is like is definitely addressing that issue.
Yep.
Right. Is there anything? I don't know if you were a big Soundgarden fan or not. Did you like him?
I kind of came to them later, because when I was coming up in high school and college in particular, I was a big Pearl Jam fan.
Right.
And not that you can't be fans of both bands, but I definitely liked Pearl Jam at that time more than Nirvana. And then it was only later that I kind of discovered Soundgarden. I mean, Soundgarden was around, but later I started to digest the albums and give Chris Cornell his due.
Right.
But yeah, I was kind of a Pearl Jam guy back in the day.
Now it's funny going back. If you have a chance, if you want to dive deeper into any more Chris Cornell stuff, I know Mark Maron re-released his interview with him
nice.
The day after he passed, and it's really great because you learn a lot more about it, and you learn that one amazing thing, he was not a singer; he was a drummer.
Oh, wow.
And he joined Kim Thale and Hero. Was it? I'm gonna screw up the last name, but Hero. They were three-piece basically. They were to form Soundgarden, and they're like, well, who's gonna sing? And he was like, I guess I will. And like for their first gigs, he was playing the drums with a mic back there singing. And it's amazing to be like, oh, that voice, a guy who's known as like one of the greatest rock voices of all time. Didn't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure. I don't know. And then he was friends with Andy Wood, who was the lead singer of Mother Love Bone, who was apparently, he describes in this Maron interview that, like, they were the band, like, in Seattle. Everybody was like, all the record labels were like, we're going to sign them. And they did.
At the bit, yeah.
They signed Mother Love Bone, which included Jeff Ament and,
that's right.
Was it not Mike McCready, but Jeff Ament and Stone Gossard, I think.
Yeah, Stone Gossard.
And they were in Mother Love Bone, and then Andy overdosed.
Yep. And then
before their album came out,
and
they sent out
Pearl
some
Jam.
tapes to San Diego. This young guy named Edward Vedder.
Trips me because we so affiliate Eddie Vedder with Seattle,
right?
But they found him in
He's
surfing
a surf boy,
in San Diego.
Yeah.
And oh man.
So and then you see that, and then when they do the tribute album to Andy Wood, Temple of the Dog, him and Eddie get together and sing that song, Hunger Strike, which is great. So to think back, like, to bring it back to the Dudes of Future Past sort of stuff, it's funny to think of.
I don't mind stealing bread.
Right. I mean,
from the mouth of decadence.
Oh, no, I definitely, from the mouths of decadence, sure, yes, I will steal bread from the mouths of decadence. I thought you were just going to say, I don't mind stealing bread.
And you're like,
I'm like, wait a second.
Let's not encourage
the people
the
at Sara
audience.
Lee need to make a buck, too.
That's right.
Come on, they worked hard.
They have families.
The Vandecamps folks, they're making
Vandecamps.
good bread. King's Hawaiian.
What's the Mexican bread company?
I don't know.
Shoot.
You have to put me on the spot.
I
now I look
know.
like a racist because I don't know a Mexican bread company.
It's got like a really unique name.
El Torito.
No.
No? Is that worse?
Forget. It'll come to me.
I know. I threw out 3 good breads.
You did, and I had to.
And you.
And I couldn't
Hostess?
Even, and I couldn't even back it up.
Is Hostess? I know.
It wasn't like I put it
What's
out
the
there.
Mexican?
Hey,
what's
do
that
you know?
Asian bread company?
I have no idea.
Son of a
You're
bitch.
the one who asked the question,
asked me.
Brad.
I don't know.
I don't know.
See, you're a racist, Kurt. You don't
It's
know.
like, oh man, I'm gonna look it up.
See,
now while
if
we're
I
on
wanted
here.
to be racist, I'd go, "What do you mean, tortillas?" That's what a jerk would say, but I wouldn't say that.
Bread.
Bread?
Mexicans don't eat bread.
You know that Middle Eastern bread? You mean pitas? So anyway, we're laughing. It's good to laugh because in this time it's really sad.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Go back and I implore anybody. Like, I'm thinking about Joey.
Bimbo. B-I-M-B-O.
Bimbo with the little bear
Yep.
logo.
Bimbo.
All right, that's it. El Bimbo.
Yeah.
So
It's
think
a
about
multinational bakery.
see, that's where you screwed me up. If you said multinational, I would have said
yep,
Bimbo.
You would have been like, oh, Bimbo.
Now you think of a guy like Joey who's 20 years old. It's kind of amazing to think about. He's got this whole world of music and music history or life to live.
Yep.
Like we've been through
And
25,
access, like,
30 years of concerts, right?
Think about the access he has to music compared to what we had coming up. You know, like
Yeah.
we had the radio. And
Yeah.
then CDs were introduced, I think, in the early 80s.
Yeah. Well,
Do you
we
know
had
that
cassette
the
tapes for a while.
compact disc technology was originally developed specifically for classical music?
No, why? Why classical?
Because they thought that, classical fans who are usually big audiophiles, big
Mm-hmm.
discophiles, that they would appreciate the clarity of a digital recording where you could hear each of the instruments and that sort of thing. But then record labels obviously thought, well, why not? This is a cheap format, cheaper than vinyl.
Everybody's complaining about these cassette tapes getting all tangled up or whatever.
So then that's a good question. What was the first album you bought on CD?
The first album I bought on CD might have been, it might have been Green by R.E.M.
There you go. That's a good one.
I think, maybe. I know that stands out in my mind a lot,
That's
but
a good
I'm trying to
album.
think of like what at
They're
the time.
due for a reunion.
Yeah,
R.E.M.
they could possibly come back out.
You know,
But it's a great thing to think about. Yeah, like we went through CDs.
I think the audience is still there. Mine was Van Halen OU812.
Oh,
That was my
U812?
first CD. But yeah, they originally developed for classical music, and then the labels decided, well, why don't we just make money?
give it to everybody. Yeah,
Lots and lots of money.
That's the thing. That's a pain in the ass because then they tried mini CDs, and they
That
would
didn't take
give you a
off.
CD player with a little mini
Oh,
disc
yeah.
thing
Yeah.
inside, and you have to. Oh, so dumb. And then
And now vinyl's back.
vinyl is back. Do you think cassettes will ever come back?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I used to work at Amoeba Music, as you know, and
Right
before
here in
that,
Los
Virgin
Angeles, for those of
Records.
you outside of the Los Angeles area.
Outside of the L.A. area, Amoeba.
Amoeba's
has a-
known worldwide, I'm sure.
I think so. They have a store in Berkeley, the original store in Berkeley.
Oh, okay.
They also have a store in San Francisco, and then the L.A. store, which I helped open and worked there for 5 or 6 years. And
Wow.
before that, Virgin. I worked at Virgin Records when they were still Virgin mega stores. But what was my point?
The point was
Oh,
cassettes.
Yes. So, according to my record store friends who are still in the record store business, cassettes are starting to sell again.
Really?
Kids are starting to buy them, and they're still putting them out. I don't
Weird.
personally get it,
No.
I'm a vinyl guy. I still buy CDs too because I spend a lot of time in the car and whatever, and so I like tangibles. I like having an album or a CD in my hand, reading the liner notes, all of that. Even though I know it's totally ridiculous, takes up space, it's expensive. there's just a different experience listening to music when it's a record or a CD versus, for me, scrolling through your iTunes library.
It's true. There's something about it. I mean, but that's
you have
more
greater
of
ownership, I feel, and greater
it's a
investment.
different personality as far as like your leisure time experience of music or your enjoyment of music.
It's like you have to ask yourself: are you an album guy or a greatest hits guy?
I don't think you have to ask yourself that.
You can be both.
You can be both.
All right.
I mean, I can listen to Spotify and just put on one album, and I do that every now and then.
And what's the other one? Pandora.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And
Tidal.
And I do like, when I'm at a drinking establishment
Mm-hmm.
and different people are programming tunes. It's kind of fun to get a sense of other people's tastes.
Yeah. I like when the guy plays one song 16 times in a row.
A quick funny?
Please.
So
It better be funny.
I was at Timmy Nolan's. The night, I think it was the night.
Also local reference, Los Angeles, Burbank. Well, Riverside?
Toluca Lake. Toluca Lake on Riverside. Great little Irish pub.
Timmy Nolan's give us free
beers,
drinks for the shout out.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, that's right.
Free
Timmy
drinks.
Nolan's, free drinks for
any listeners
Kurt and
at Timmy Nolan's, free drinks.
And you tell them we sent you.
Yeah.
Tell them Brad and Kurt sent you.
Yeah, if you go to Timmy Nolan's because you listen to this podcast, say, hey, this great podcast talked about you guys. Maybe you should have them do a live podcast here.
Ooh, a live podcast.
Because Joey's going to turn 21 this summer.
Oh, let's do it.
We should do a live podcast from a bar. And maybe Timmy Nolan's could be the one. Maybe.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be great, right? We got to do a birthday show.
That's a great idea, actually.
Anyway,
but
go ahead.
It was the night, I believe Chris Cornell died on that last Thursday?
Yeah.
Or last Wednesday night? Almost a week ago.
Yeah.
So I was there on Thursday night, and there were some guys there who were programming a lot of not only Soundgarden, but Mother Love Bone and
Audio
Temple of the
Slave
Dog and Pearl Jam and like all the grunge classics, Alice in Chains.
Right.
And
we lost a lot of grungies.
Yeah. Because he's dead.
Lane Staley's dead. Kurt Cobain's dead.
You could argue that Scott
Andy
Weiland.
Woods,
You could argue that
Scott
Scott Weiland was part of the grunge
definitely.
scene.
Well, I mean, he
Stone Temple
benefited
Pilots,
from it. Yeah.
I mean, early in his career, he had all those comparisons to sounding like Chris Cornell and sounding like Eddie Vedder.
Right.
But so they were programming all these songs, and I knew I couldn't really compete. It's like, what am I going to just program more of the same? So I programmed the Carpenters.
Nice. You're a dick.
So, and literally, I was so hoping that they would. But here's the thing about Karen Carpenter's voice.
What's that?
Like, you can hear it and go, what? But you can't really knock her. Like,
No.
she has an amazing voice.
She does.
I was doing it as a joke,
Did.
obviously.
Uh-huh.
Did have a great voice. I was doing it as a joke.
Could have used a sandwich there, broad.
And I so expected these guys who had just programmed all this grunge music to kind of look up and around the bar like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And not one of them even
Nobody
twitched
blinked.
or moved or blinked or anything.
Which song did you play? Do you remember?
Well, I'm on top of the world,
looking
sitting down on creation, and the only explanation I can find is the love
and I really need a sandwich. I'm skinny. She couldn't eat. She had anorexia.
She had
Not
anorexia.
a joke.
For the young kids out there,
Don't be anorexic.
don't be anorexic or bulimic.
No, I don't know what it is. I mean, it's like tell a kid, don't have a drug problem. Don't have it.
Exactly.
Don't be drunk.
Don't be sad.
Don't be sad.
Don't
no.
ever be sad.
Well, here's the thing, and actually we joke about it because we need
Mental
to laugh.
depression,
Well, that's the whole thing with Chris
anxiety.
Cornell. Hopefully, I mean, God, hopefully,
Some-
I always say hopefully. Some
Yeah.
good will come out of some of these
like
bad
some
things.
kids might seek out help. Not
Every
just
time.
kids. I mean, he was 52, so adults. I have a family friend who is in his 80s now and had late kind of depression kind of hit him later in life.
Right.
So it's not like depression is only for kids who are in their teens and struggling. It can hit people at any time, and we all find ways of coping. And obviously, in Chris Cornell's case, for many years it was drugs and
Right.
alcohol. But and do you know the specifics? I mean, he was in Detroit.
He hung himself apparently. There's talk.
Some
The thing is,
antidepressants.
he was on prescribed, I believe, antidepressants
took
like
too much
Ativan or something like that.
Ativan.
And one of the apparently one of the side effects that they warn against is suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
And so there is discussion. I don't know. There was talk that his wife was saying that, it was the drugs that did it to him. I mean, he had a darkness to him. There was definitely like a side of him that I don't think he, we were talking about it earlier before the podcast, like the idea of like this, the beauty of a musician and how much they share their soul and their art to the world for everybody else to interpret whatever way they're going to. There's such a magic there. And like to see like Bowie and Prince and Gary Shandling and Chris Cornell, like all these people who die, especially in these highly...
and if we're talking suicide, Robin Williams.
Yeah, Robin Williams. Like, there's just like these artists who are just too beautiful for the world sometimes.
Yeah. Yep.
And you know that like some of the best artwork, comedy, art, whatever it is.
During a time when we need their artistry and their art.
They might just be too... Are they too sad? Are they too broken by the world? Are they just like, I can't do it anymore?
Well, part of the reason I think that we love these artists, whether they be visual artists or actors or musicians, is the fact that they can tap into those dark places and communicate universal ideas about life and loss and death and love and so
they're very in tune. That feeling is coming out right onto the page. They're very tapped in,
and we feel like somebody hears us and somebody understands us. But of course,
I mean, you and I have talked about it. We both, I mean, I've sought therapy, and it's thankfully it's helping, but it doesn't cure everything. And you know that you have a lot to share. I definitely have those times where like, man, I just want to entertain people, but then sometimes people just let you down. Where you're like, fuck, why do I want to make those people happy?
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? And Kurt Cobain had a big problem with it. I mean, I know he was very vocal at the time about how he had made this music, and it was an expression of his pain and experience in the world.
To be so huge.
Yeah, and then you got these dumb jock frat guys who were moshing around, hurting other people, or date raping their girlfriends or whatever, singing "Smells Like Teen Spirit."
We're on to the date rape part of the podcast.
No, we're not. I don't think. I mean, that's his sort of idea. His explanation was just like he couldn't take these guys who would probably beat him up in school. Are now singing his songs.
Yep.
And that's, I mean, it's a tough thing to deal with. You're like,
who called him a weirdo and a faggot and this, that, and the other. And I apologize for my language. But those are things I was called when I was coming up. You know?
Exactly.
If you're artistic and you're a little off, you're a little weird, and you're a little...
Everybody has that.
You get you get the bullies calling you everything under the sun. And
I try to convince... I'm even seeing it now with my son who's only 11, and you got
Do you think bullies are always bullies?
Bullies are,
but they can graduate from being bullies?
I think so.
Into being president?
What?
Whoa.
Oh, I said we wouldn't get political. But no, yes, I think they will. I think bullies, if they don't seek help or don't get the proper love and care or some sort of epiphany in their life that they need to change things, they will be that person always. But
do you remember how devastated people were when Kurt Cobain died?
I was one of them. I was a huge fan. I have a picture of him right here.
Candlelight vigils.
Look at him. He's right there.
I know. It's
always
right
looking
on
at
your
me.
wall. I think your mom gave you that, didn't she?
She did. I actually took that
we're looking at a framed Rolling Stone picture of Kurt Cobain.
That's from when he passed.
When he passed away.
1994.
94 he passed away?
Yeah. So he was a contemporary of Chris Cornell. To look at it that way, on the positive side, Chris Cornell lasted a lot longer.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But no,
1994.
1967 and 1994. Wow. So he would have been 50 this year.
Yep.
Think about that. Like,
and, when you think about how old we are, 50 is young. As far as I'm concerned, 50 is still young. And people are, for the most part, living longer and living healthier. And, my parents have certainly outlived their parents, and hopefully will, live to at least 80, 90.
We'll see. I'm just hoping
Roll the dice.
Maybe if I just get my essence or my brain into a computer, I'll be happy with that.
Live forever.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I wanted to talk. That's the beauty of music, is that it can express these things. It can be translated and hit those people. Maybe even that bully who was listening to "Smells Like Teen Spirit" and was like, "I fucking love this tune." There was something deep down inside that it also connected with that, and I think that's why grunge hit such a big struck a big chord with so many people is that there is a lot of that angst and pain. They don't know how to express it. You don't know as a teenager. You're like, if you are called a faggot or a jerk or weirdo or whatever, you are you either put your defenses up and you're like, I'm straight and narrow. I'm gonna go along with the crowd, so I don't want to stand out. Or you got those people who go the other way and go like, I'm gonna go as weird as possible because screw you guys.
Yep.
Or those other people who just keep taking it, and they don't know what to do.
It's this. You don't want to encourage bully behavior.
No.
You don't want to encourage kids being brutal to each other in school and that sort of thing. But I do think that as a result of being bullied, that kind of fed my art, if you will, that fed my impulse to be an actor.
Me too.
My comedy chops started to develop early as a defense mechanism.
Right.
So if I could diffuse the bully's attacks, if I could make the bully laugh, if I could, that sort of thing, then the bully would leave me alone. And it's kind of a great sense of accomplishment when you're that age and you can have the bully leave you alone because you cracked a funny joke or you did an accent or a character or whatever, and they're like, McDonald.
Yeah.
You weirdo.
You're funny, McDonald.
And they don't beat you up that day.
Yeah. That's a lot what fed my thing, too. Because, I played on the football team, man. I love football. I love, the sport. But being around those dudes, I was like, and my coach, like we've talked about it on the podcast before.
Just
I'm
a little
like,
too much testosterone.
Yeah. And then when I got hurt in that year, I went out for the musical. I went out for The Sound of Music. And I remember getting made fun of by the rest of the team for singing and dancing and being queer.
I did The Sound of Music, too. Who'd you play?
I played Captain Von Trapp in The Sound of Music.
Well, la-dee-da.
Yeah.
I was Uncle Max.
There were bells on the hill, but I never heard them ringing.
Did you
No,
sing
I
it like
never
that when you were in high
heard
school?
them at all.
I did. I think I sing Edelweiss exactly the same way now.
Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, soft and white, clean and bright.
All our listeners just tuned out.
Hey, listen, if you don't like the classics, if you're calling me a weirdo or a faggot because I'm singing Edelweiss,
Exactly.
then you don't want to listen to my podcast.
Get on board with the
That's how Tom Leykis started.
Rogers.
If you don't like to listen to Sound of Music,
Coming up next, Rogers
Call
and
me
Hammerstein.
1-800-5800-TOM, and you can dump that bitch.
What
Look, that's
if
right.
DJs? What if they did play like show tunes, but in the DJ voice?
Yeah. Oh, that would be great.
Coming up next, Stephen Sondheim.
Oh, we got some Rogers and Hammerstein coming up for you after this one. But right now,
You don't want to miss it.
kick back. It's from Les Miserables. One more day. One day more.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. That'd
I'm
be
not
great.
giving away my shot after these commercial announcements.
Shot.
The Pantages Theater. Our new spring catalog has all the great ones. The Bodyguard. That's awful. I give this.
I heard that was supposed to be pretty good.
I heard it was all right. I didn't go to that one. Anyway, we won't get into musical theater talk right now. But I do, yeah.
Yeah.
So our heart goes out to everybody. And I do, what I was saying earlier was that I kind of thought Chris Cornell was underappreciated. But what really struck me was like the outpouring of love and sadness and everybody playing his music on Facebook or online.
Well, I think
or
it's still
putting
sinking in. It was so sudden
Yeah.
and
Especially after-
and unexpected.
In Erie, right after a show,
Because he had tweeted when he was in Detroit, and they were,
Yep.
positive tweets, and he was excited to be back in Rock City. And
apparently during the last song in the encore, he said, "In my time," they were mixing in my time of dying. What was it the Led Zeppelin
no
tune?
way.
Yeah. So it's kind of creepy, right? Ugh. Yeah. So,
I mean, we should probably, we don't have it in front of us, but if people need help, man, there's lots of
yeah, I'm gonna put it out.
hotlines
I'll put it
there.
out with the podcast, along with a picture of Brad on the website. I'll put Brad up on the website. But in that website is dudesoffuturepast.com. And again, I apologize for the lack of material lately, but we got half an hour in already, and we still got a lot more to talk about.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dudes of Future, and tweet us. Dudes, what was it? DOFP cast, Dudes of Future Past. That's what the DOFP stands for, Brad. Okay. Do you understand? Do you understand? Am I explaining this enough?
I can't acronyms.
DOFP cast. That's Instagram and Twitter. And I'm at KurtLong73. You are KurtLong73 for Instagram. At Kurt Long for Twitter. Brad is at...
They can find me Bradley Bumper.
Bradley Bumper.
BradleyBumper.
And that's for both,
Bumper.
right?
That's for
Twitter
and Instagram and Snapchat.
Oh, my Snapchat is Kurt... I think it's
Which
Kurt
I'm brand
L73.
spanking new to. I don't know what it is. I don't know that it's going to... I'm going to... Because quite frankly, I don't need to snap a picture of me with like really wide eyes.
Or a cartoon tongue. Or
bear's nose or a cartoon tongue.
That's just for hot
little
chicks.
Stars coming out of my
You're
ears.
not hot enough.
And,
Although,
I don't know.
Those filters definitely make me look better.
Oh, yeah.
I will say that. All those kids, don't be fooled.
He doesn't look nearly as good as he does on Snapchat.
Nearly look that good. Well, the wonderful thing about...
That's not true. You're a handsome...
Oh, I'm a good-looking fella from a distance. So this is what really gets me is that because I am such a huge lover of music, as is Brad, kind of the reason why we became super friends back 12 years ago or so, was, we both love music. Brad, you have such a huge knowledge and always is great. In fact, I think I have your Jackson Browne is right there. I have to return to you underneath that thing. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad I thought of it. I'm glad I thought to give you your CD back that has been here for a long time.
I know. Wow.
So, Brad, we both love live music. We've both attended Billy Joel together. We were going to go to see U2 together, but we did not. We ended up going on different days. That he went.
You still haven't opened this CD that I gave you.
Which one? No, I have not opened that one. I'm sorry.
This was a gift. You get to keep this one.
I keep that one.
These two come back with me. Alabama Shakes and.
I recorded Alabama Shakes. I did not record the other one, and I don't know why I didn't open that. Are you sure I didn't open that?
No, it's still sealed.
All right. Well, you got me. I didn't open that one.
That one's for you to keep.
Let me see.
Great.
Let me see that one.
Michael Kiwanuka. If I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he's really good. He's originally from Africa, but he's a British artist who does kind of bluesy folk. And he has 2 albums. That's his first. It's really good.
I will listen. I apologize. I think that just got lost.
And as a result of the shout out,
shuffle.
now he has to get us backstage at the next show that he
Michael Kiwanuka.
In LA.
Let us know when you're in LA. So obviously we love live music, and we have to tie this into the obvious. Again, I don't want to be all bummer here, so we'll talk about Manchester first.
All right, let's get all the bummer out, and then we'll talk
and then we'll end up with the lighter YouTube
stuff
because such a hard, as you know, everybody
22
watching,
dead,
22 dead, over 50 injured or 60 injured now.
50-something, almost 60.
In Manchester, England, some coward representing ISIS just decided to... I guess there's the one good silver lining is that he didn't get inside the concert during and get more people, but was this outside the show as they were leaving?
Or something, or by,
something like that.
Oh, really? It was after the concert?
Yeah, because Ariana Grande had already finished up her show.
Really?
She had left the stage, and people were waiting outside to pick up their kids. And that's the thing. This is, again, Ariana Grande with a lot younger audience.
Yeah, and we were talking about it earlier. You have 2 young ones yourself.
I do.
I could absolutely see your daughter and even your son getting into Ariana Grande, and
right.
And it's just sad to think that the majority of the targets. The other thing too is concerts, for the most part, are an integrated, inclusive environment.
Mm-hmm.
At least the shows that I've been to. You have young and old, white and black, yellow, brown, red, everything in between, male, female. It's you have a very eclectic group of people who, we both went to U2, who made it out to the U2 concert this past weekend. And I'm sure it was a very eclectic audience at the Ariana Grande concert.
Right, especially in Manchester.
So you're going to be your target if you're a terrorist. You're going to go, I'm going to bomb, this symbol of unity and inclusiveness and community, and I don't know. It's sad that it's incredibly sad that so many young people lost their lives. I'm sure there were a lot of parents there with their kids, maybe a lot of kids who had their very first concert experience by going to the Ariana Grande concert,
Yeah.
and now they're dead.
And they may never want to go experience a concert again in their life. That's a horrible psychological scar that may never heal.
Yeah, and it's a transgression of a beautiful religion, in my opinion.
Yeah.
These terrorist acts are an abomination and don't represent the true edicts of Islam. And
no, that's what the tough
you
part.
said
And
it. You have a coward who was probably confused about the political agenda of this movement and this attack, this specific attack.
I mean, I'm not defending anybody who does this cowardly act, but I think all of it ties in a way to mental health.
Yeah.
In the idea of feeling separate, feeling lost or alone and misunderstood, and you look for any sort of
sense of belonging, sense of community, sense of
that's
family.
What these groups prey on. They look for those wounded people who need some acceptance. And this kid, they say they got this kid Salman Ramadan
he's only
Abedi, 22 years old. So I mean, what could this guy politically have had in his head like that he had an agenda for? He was probably some sort of lost soul who just
and there's no defending his actions, but
no, not at all.
His death is tragic too.
He's old enough to be cursed out and be like, you could rot in hell.
Yep.
You knew better. This is awful.
Awful.
I'm not saying there's anything like, he was messed up and but I mean,
but it's the whole gang thing of preying on people who don't feel like they belong, preying on people who have been ostracized or pushed aside in their communities and families and whatnot, and they want a sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
It's just sad that's where they find it.
Yeah, and so now we deal with the ripple effect from something like this, whereas obviously the sadness, like again, the scarring of all these kids who were there. We have no idea. I haven't seen anything, a message or anything from Ariana Grande, but it's got to weigh heavily on her as well.
Gosh, yeah. And what was the security like at the show? I mean, the thing is, if the attack took place after the concert, it actually makes more sense because I'm sure the security is a little more lax after a concert because everybody's leaving.
Right.
Whereas when people are coming in, they're looking for explosives and weapons and that sort of thing, and maybe not as concerned after the show when everybody's filing out. But that's what a world we live in now, where people attack movie theaters and concerts and nightclubs.
Right.
Where people are trying to experience joy. That's the thing. It's like when you think about the fact that concerts, for the most part, at least in my experience, are these wonderful celebrations of life and music and love, and
unity.
It's usually a joyful thing where you're with your friends and or family.
Unless you're at a festival show with a bunch of different types of music where you don't know who's there to see who. But when you go see,
I mean, the dichotomy of absolute joy.
Yeah.
And absolute tragedy.
Yeah, there's this unspoken.
On the same night.
And we'll get into the U2 thing because I thought about the same thing. Being at that concert at the Rose Bowl, looking around, 2 nights in a row of over 60-something thousand people. So you're talking all those folks, and man, this band is playing on stage. There's 4 fellas on stage, just making this whole crowd sing, jump up and down, wave their hands, cry. Feel something together in unison, and
beautiful.
This outpouring of emotion and feeling and love, and that is gone for all these kids, especially those who died. Obviously, the ones who were wounded.
All due respect to Ariana Grande, how can they ever listen to a song?
Yeah, I mean, that's any song of hers comes on the radio. It's going to make it awful.
It's going to be a trigger now for
so
the rest
hopefully.
of their lives.
Again, mental health. Hopefully, people will be there to help these kids with that and make them realize that we can't let somebody like this come in and ruin these wonderful parts of our life.
I think you were the one who was telling me at lunch, as awful as that situation is, and it is an awful situation, was and is. There were also beautiful, complete strangers helping out people who couldn't find their family members or friends. Yeah, that's putting them up for the night. Emergency personnel being there right away to help people and to care for the injured and dying. And So there's always great examples of the positive aspects of humanity and the power and potential of humanity.
We don't
in
need
the most tragic situations.
Right. We don't need a tragedy to
Be
keep
reminded
reminded.
of that. Yeah, I know.
I would be nice if we didn't have to, but what is encouraging is you do look to the heroes, as people have said. When you see a situation like this, to not think what a effed up place this world is, because if you are in a bad place and you're like, why should I go on, or why should I even be involved in this world with so much hate and anger and violence? There is so much beauty. There was so many, like all the people, anybody who worked, doesn't matter what you're getting paid that day. If you're an emergency worker or a policeman, ambulance driver, security guard at a concert, the paycheck didn't matter. There was some, bad stuff was going down and they were helping people.
Yep.
Not just because they were paid to do it. And there were other people who weren't any of those qualifiers. They were just regular people who were at the show. And people in Manchester area, they knew because of all the craziness and the police and the bomb squads and everything else going on. Some people couldn't get home, couldn't get to the people couldn't get there to pick them up. Places were roped off, so they stayed overnight at strangers' houses because they needed a place to stay.
It's a beautiful thing.
So you see that there is love and that there is beauty and that there are people just, again, we can't let the darkness overtake everything. But yeah, that's why it's such a sad thing. I turn to music. I'm not a musician myself, although I sing pretty well. You've heard it through the podcast.
Yes.
I'm a really good
like an angel.
Like an angel. No, that wasn't. That was not an example. But it's such a connective tissue.
Yeah.
That's not. That's invisible. Anytime you just talk to people, oh, you going to that U2 show? Oh, boom. Hey, have you gone to Coachella? Oh my God. And then you start to talk, and then it just this. You see how people want to. They do. There's this want of community that music provides. There's I want to go there. I can tell you, you know what? I can't tell you all the money I saved on shows I didn't go to. I can't tell you what joy that money I didn't spend brought me. But I can tell you for hours and hours and hours of the amazing times I've had at concerts. And
you definitely, it won't ever be a regret on your deathbed where you're like, oh, why did I spend so much time and money at live concerts?
Right. No.
It brought you an immense, and me too, amount of joy.
Joy and meaning and again,
stories,
community, story.
And you get together with your friends.
Lots of sex.
And nothing but sex.
Yeah, always free love at these shows, baby.
I did make out with a goth girl at one of the Lollapaloozas.
Did you?
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Pretty
Cute
great.
goth girl.
That's
and we
the
were
thing.
hardcore making out by the time of Jane's Addiction's 3 days.
3 days. Oh, 3 days. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I don't
3
know that
days.
as well. I can't sing
That's
that.
off of Ritual de la Habitual.
Yes.
Señoras y señoras.
Iguanas. Well,
I don't know.
man,
So
it's been a
yeah,
while
see?
since I listened to that album.
Bimbo. That's a callback to Mexican bread. So my hearts obviously go out to Manchester, to all those kids, to Ariana Grande, to anybody. I never thought I'd say that. My heart goes out to Ariana Grande
and her fans and her.
But
Yeah,
that's a lot of healing has to happen. And fuck, man, this world. Yeah.
I think
I don't.
this is obviously the world we live in now, where terrorism is increasingly these soft targets like a farmer's market, a beach, concert, a nightclub, a restaurant, and unfortunately, that's the world we live in now. Do we have to accept it? No.
No.
Do we have to bury our heads in the sand and hide? No. I mean, I say we continue to live our lives without fear, but that doesn't mean that if something seems off that we shouldn't.
Oh, no, keep your eyes open. Well,
let security know, like, hey, that guy's wearing a really long duster and it's August and nobody else is wearing anything like that.
and nobody is with him, and he seems
and
twitchy.
nobody's with him and he seems twitchy.
But that's the thing is how do you stay at
Or her.
or
Don't mean
her?
to say
Listen,
that all
girls,
terrorists are men.
Strong girls.
You
can be
ladies
terrorists
can be
too.
terrorists too.
The weirdest support of
You
women.
can, I know exactly.
Of,
you can
feminism.
be the most terrifying, worst, awful terrorist ever.
Femorism.
Femorism?
Yeah, that's feminist terrorism.
We just made it up.
Femorism.
Femorism.
So I agree wholeheartedly. I do fear that there's going to be a contingent who's out there like, see what bad people are out there. We need to get more guns, and we need to bomb more people, and we need to do this. No. Like, look,
with Brexit in England, and with the
I'm not being all corny
very
here.
Close race in France. You've got a lot of like right wingers, a lot of kind of nationalists,
The
including
fear
in
has
our own
worked. The
country.
fear has worked.
The
on
fear
them.
has worked, and they feel like that there is a legitimate war going on between the Western world and.
But what
and
they forget is
Islam.
that those are people too with their values who also feel. I'm not defending anybody. I'm not saying that obviously terrorism and violence is the bad way to go. That's why
They
I don't think
talk
it's the
about
right way to go.
Muslim victims, you know,
The Muslim, there's victims there.
Probably more.
You could
than,
kill a village of all criminals. There could be 80 criminals in a village. They're all terrorist bad guys. But say they've got 20 kids, innocents. You kill all those terrorists. All those kids grow up to see is that somebody killed who killed my dad? Oh, was it America? Now you got 20 more kids or whatever, how many kids there are. They're all going to grow up and go, I'm going to kill Americans, whatever it is. I mean, it's just look
it's
at
handed down. It's
and you
taught
can't deny it, especially if you're like, oh, one guy blew up a bomb at a Manchester show. Well, let's go kill all of those guys.
Yeah.
It's like you can't just be like. There's got to be a better way to think this out. We're more evolved creatures. We're smarter than this. And like I said with the whole music thing, there's connective tissue. We could I'm not sure how many Republicans or right wing crazies were, conservatives were at the U2 show, but I'm sure there were.
Well, there absolutely were, and I have friends who lean to the right, who are conservative, and they're big U2 fans. So, music is definitely one of those areas where people can put politics aside, or at least, kind of shelve the discussion a little bit to enjoy the music and the message, and then maybe come back together and discuss their thoughts on what the song lyrics mean and what the song really means and is trying to say and that sort of thing. We had a couple Mormons in front of us.
Really?
Which was wild.
They had 16 wives.
And they plugged their ears when Bono was talking about AIDS and
oh, really?
the treatment of AIDS and all of that.
Why? See, that's the thing. What's this ignorance? Like we can't. No. Well, we got to live in the world we
now.
Want
In
to
their
live in.
defense, they were present for pretty much all of the entire show, and they were singing along.
Actually did.
They were singing along with
visibly
most of the
plug
songs,
their ears.
but they visibly plugged their ears when there was mention of homosexuality or the AIDS epidemic.
Oh
and
boy.
The treatment of AIDS, and Bono was basically paying the United States a compliment, saying how much money
has gone. Yeah, we have
raised for the treatment of
to
AIDS and how
to obliterate it.
something like 16 or 18, I forget what it
billion?
is. Yeah, are living with AIDS.
Oh yeah.
But it was back to your point. I think music can be a great platform for people with differing views to come together. And
it's amazing. You see it all the time when we had the earthquake in Haiti and there was a concert. Boom. Raising money for that. But like music, it does so much. You'll see the Red Nose Day coming up. Like all there's so many ways that art in general, like comedy, music, film, whatever it is, can bring across these positive messages and these connected things. And we can love a movie, we can love a song, we can no matter what our political beliefs are. And to have that same mindset, which is funny, because going back to the U2 show, it's great to see in that moment. We're all at the U2 show listening to One and One Love, One Life,
when it's one need in the night.
And everybody's singing together and crying and looking at each other and just smiling.
Yeah.
Oh, we're one. And we're all feeling high-fiving.
And
then the concert's over and everybody gets to the parking lot and drives like a fucking asshole. Fuck you. Get out of my way. Beep, beep, beep. It's so unreal how briefly that magical bliss can stay there. And then they get in the parking lot and they're just like tearing around and cutting people off and just like
not signaling,
like
cutting you off, clipping you,
threatening to bump your car. And I'm like, is it getting better?
Or do you
feel the same? I feel the same. Now I feel the same in the parking lot. I feel the same.
In the name of love. Fuck you.
Fuck you. Let me out of here. Yeah, and that's the thing is like we're such this imperfect being, this human. We
are flawed. That's for sure.
We can't.
But
figure
it's like,
it
how
out.
do we carry that energy? Whether it's like a sporting event where everybody's you win Game 7 and just on a high.
Yeah.
How do you carry that unity and that interconnectedness out into a increasingly hostile, cynical, angry world?
It feels tougher and tougher, but with things like this, like a podcast, hopefully there's more people can connect. There's people, you can listen to not just this show, any show.
I think that article there was an article in Rolling Stone last year, last year.
By the way, I don't want to sound like my podcast could save people's world. I'm just saying that there's other people, any people's podcast, any people's being able, the ability to connect so easily, hopefully will continue that sort of feeling.
No, I think your podcast can change.
All right, thank you.
But the article is called Age of Fear. I believe it's called Age of Fear. It's a Rolling Stone article, came out late last year.
Okay.
And it talks about how, at least in the Western world, despite all the horrible news, like we just had some with Manchester, we are actually living in a safer, more affluent time for everybody,
For sure.
And yet, we've never been more miserable and angry and polarized.
Right. Well, that's because, the news is of whatever differences we have is so
we have
easily
access.
available. Uh-oh.
Whoa.
What is that?
I don't know.
I don't know if that came across on the podcast, but that was I was looking up the Age of Fear that you were telling me about, and somehow that pulled in there.
Yeah, it's a good article.
It is.
But
look that up. There's a whole thing about Roger. There's a tie-in now of Roger Ailes and how Fox News built the Fear Factory.
Oh yeah.
So that's the thing is there's so many ways that people could profit.
Well, not only that, but when we were kids, we're old enough to remember when cable wasn't around, and even when in the early days of cable, it wasn't like you were constantly bombarded with news stories and bad news stories at that. So it's like we see it on our computers, we hear it in the car, we see it on our cell phones. It's 24/7, 365, and I think. Not that any of us should stick our heads in the sand and hide away, but we should all kind of take a breather from social media and a breather from news and here and there, because it's just going to make you miserable.
What if there was like a
tune in all the time to
nationwide like internet shutdown at like certain hours?
Yeah, right. And if like you had no choice, but
choice. You're like, all right, you got to go outside, got to go talk to somebody. Like between the hours,
you can still call people in emergency situations, but you can't go online to, get into a fight with somebody about some ridiculous thing on Facebook. Which
that would be it'd be kind of fun. Like there was only one website you could go to, and it was all positivity.
Like when
Y2K,
all
bunnies and unicorns.
Remember when the Y2K thing was happening? People were like, "Oh, the computers are going to crash." I was like, "I hope so."
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be fun.
Then let's see what happens. Then the planes will crash and everything else will go down, and you can't microwave a burrito.
I just want a burrito.
Yeah. So let's get into. I mean, again, we're not going to save the world yet, but we're trying to get there. If you're in pain. If you're upset about the bombing, Chris Cornell.
Well, and at the end of the day, whether it's the depression and suicide, whether it's a terrorist, an act of aggression and terror at a concert, we're not alone. And there's more love in the world than hate. I
still believe that. I believe that too.
There are more good people than bad people, and we're not alone. And I think we have to remind ourselves of that, and we have to remind ourselves that we're a part of a world community, and have the same kind of blood pumping through our veins and the same needs and dreams and desires.
Isn't it weird? Like I feel that and I believe that wholeheartedly, but then I look at somebody like Sean Hannity and I'm like,
yeah.
How the fuck is he the same person as me?
Well,
like the same human.
Talk about someone who's
species.
profited from fear.
Yeah.
From stoking fears.
Bill O'Reilly or Sean Hannity. He's just
Yeah, he's not my
Somebody
guy.
give him a fucking hug.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know.
I don't know. Somebody just like, it's not your fault. What if they just Robin Williams him from Good Will Hunting? The liberals are assholes. It's not your fault, Sean. No, I'm not saying it's not. I'm saying the liberals. It's not your fault.
Sean. No, I know it's not my fault.
Listen.
But if these libtards...
No, Sean, it's not your fault.
But
Sean, it's not your fault, Sean.
what are you doing?
Sean, it's not your fault.
Stop it!
Sean.
Get away from me!
Sean, it's not. Give me a
away.
hug. Sean, it's not your fault. It's not your fault.
I love you.
I love you too.
We just created a great little bit.
That was a bit. That was good. We call
gotta
that
film it.
Dudes of Future Past. We call that audio theater.
So you've got the beard, so you could play the Robin Williams
I could.
part.
Hey, listen, Sean.
I
Sean,
could be Matt
it's not your
Damon if
fault.
he really let himself go.
It's not your
That
fault.
would be me.
It's not your fault.
Yeah, I know.
That's me trying to be Robin Williams.
right.
I don't know how good is that. Listen, Matt Damon.
I was like, what is
What's he
Kurt doing?
It's
Oh,
not your
he's
fault.
doing-
I'm doing Robin Williams. Is that close?
I don't know. Is that? I don't know if that's.
That's pretty close.
It's all right. It's something. It makes you think of Robin Williams.
I wasn't sure if it was Gregory Peck or if it was Robin Williams.
Hello.
I don't know if that was Gregory Peck either.
Atticus Finch.
My goodness, I think that's I think that's Gregory Peck
Yeah.
having an orgasm.
Oh, who else? Oh, that he just made me think
That's
of
when
the other
he
guy who died.
ejaculates. That's how he sounds. That's so good.
I was trying Alan Rickman.
See humor.
Harry Potter.
Oh,
Hello,
Alan Rickman, another
Potter.
one, man.
Yeah, we lost
It's
a
been
lot.
a
It's so sad.
we've had a lot of losses. in the
I
last
would
couple of years.
gladly change places with Alan Rickman if we could just get one more Harry Potter movie.
Oh, you don't
No.
mean that.
I don't mean that.
Well,
Snape-
we're getting another Harry Potter.
we
movie.
are. We
Prequel
are.
movie.
Oh, all the prequels. All the feels. All the prequels. All the feels.
Yeah.
So let's do, for those of you who are still sticking around with this podcast right now, with
Yeah.
Brad and I.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. Let's just go over. You could just basically, we've talked a lot about the YouTube show already. You could just rub it in my face that I could have gone to the show with you on Saturday.
Correct. He could have gone twice.
Could have gone twice. I had to do a benefit for my kid's school, a fundraiser for my kid's school. So that took me out of it, and then I had a gig.
He has better friends than me who had tickets for the Sunday show.
Yeah. No, not better friends. They're, just different.
They're just different.
No,
They're
I
just
had an opportunity to take my brother for his birthday, so I took my brother for his birthday.
Oh, your brother was there?
I told you, yeah, Kyle.
Wow.
That's the Kyle I was referring to.
Oh,
Yeah.
I missed that. Somehow.
Oh, yeah.
I don't always pay attention.
Yeah.
Hello. It's not your fault.
But
Brad.
if you do,
Brad, it's not your fault.
if you do the Robin Williams Gregory Peck, then I absolutely will pay attention. No, but I get to rub it in his face that it was a better set list.
Here's the thing
and
I'm
they
mad
were
about.
a little more energized on
I don't-
Saturday nights.
Right. And again, I will say, everybody who was at the show,
Very similar set list,
obviously, a majority, because
except for one or two songs.
maybe one or two songs. And we talked about this in the car on the way to the podcast. Here's my thing, and I don't want to be sour grapes and poo-poo, and I'm not just looking for something to be upset about here, but it's a pricey ticket to see
it's a
you
pricey
two.
ticket.
I will say, definitely, like I said,
what were the fees per ticket? $20
I don't know,
per
but
ticket.
it was like $180 a ticket,
Yeah.
and I was 50 rows up.
Yeah.
I mean, great seats, still close
Ours
to the
were
stage.
like 120
Yeah,
per ticket.
and
Even the floor seats were 75. I
right,
think,
yeah,
or
and you don't even get a chair. But still, I'm like, okay, but then you get food. I mean, the food is crazy. Oh, that's the concession. That's going to happen. T-shirts were ridiculous.
That's why you need a tailgate next
Yeah,
time.
I did. I tailgated. I tailgated with my
That's
brother
right.
and friends.
Well, it's still, you probably save money over what you would have paid.
Right, parking is
Eating
nuts,
inside the bowl.
and you can't. And again, getting out sucks. But
Oh my gosh.
I will say this: the good part of Rose Bowl is you get to tailgate and you can hang out for the day and you have a really good time.
And if you get there early enough, you meet some people, and
Right.
You know, and
You could-
everybody's blasting you two out of their cars. Or,
Right. I had a lot of friends who were also there Sunday show the same day as me, and they were like, "Hey, I'm in section 4," and I'm like, "I'm across the stadium from you. I will not see you."
Nope.
Sorry. I saw my friend Cleto. He was down on the floor. I was 50 rows up. I'm like, I'm not walking down 50 rows to shout at you over the wall.
Nope.
I was like, I'll just wave and,
We'll compare notes after.
compare notes after. And that's what you and I are doing.
That's what we're doing right now. Yeah, let's talk about the pros and cons. And,
I would say that
and the good and bad.
let's say pro. All right, I'll say a pro that it was. I forgot that my show was on Sunday, and why wouldn't they open up with Sunday Bloody Sunday,
yeah.
which was amazing. It was like the crowd just boom blew up and was like, yes,
They pulled out the heady hitters on that first set.
right. What did you get for
We also got Sunday Bloody Sunday, Sort of Homecoming, New Year's Day, and I'm forgetting one other song that they opened with before they did the album. They did Sunday Bloody Sunday,
I mean,
New Year's Day.
And I will say that they sounded incredible.
They sounded really tight. Like Bono's voice was really on, and the Edge was wailing on the guitar. It was fantastic. No, musically, absolutely, they were super tight. Okay, so let's talk about the pros.
Not a lot of big production because
let's talk about the pros first.
All right, we're gonna go. All right, all pros. So I'll say,
For me, I like the fact that there weren't a lot of bells and whistles.
Right.
That it was a simple stage because the original Joshua Tree stage was very simple.
Right.
So I like that.
It was kind of before they really blew up and took off.
Exactly. So I like that they really scaled down the production. Having said that, they did have some awesome new films that Anton Corbin had shot specifically for the tour. They had some other videos and still images that other artists had contributed. I liked the whole thing where they had poetry prior to them. I don't know if they did that on your night.
They do. They did that as well.
Poetry scrolling with
the different languages and the story about
that was cool.
Immigrants and stuff.
They still did some cool things with the visuals.
I mean, you could get cynical about that. The whole preachiness of U2. A lot of people who complain about U2. There is a certain, but look.
But if you're going to a U2 show, I mean,
you know that's going to happen.
We can change the world.
And I think that there's a positivity there, and there's that love and connectivity that we were talking about earlier. And you know what? They put out a good message.
Yep.
And too bad. I get it. I just want to be at a rock show. Like, dude.
And I get it. I get it. For some people, they just want escapism. They don't want to be reminded of Syrian refugees.
Right.
Which they did that whole film. And my friend Dana was like, no, I don't want to see that and all this. And sorry, Dana. I just called you out.
Suck it, Dana.
But
thanks for listening to the podcast.
I get it that people want to go to a movie and not be reminded of tragedies in real life, or go to a concert and not be reminded of tragedies in real life. But I think U2, for the most part, do a pretty good job of not talking about how horrible AIDS is, but how great it is that nations have come together in the one campaign
help fight it.
To help fight it. How there are now drugs available that are readily, for the most part, readily available, that are keeping people alive, and they're living healthy, happy, thriving lives.
Right. With
AIDS, So
these are all
I
good
do
things.
think they present these things not as like, look at how fucked up the world is, but look at all the good that comes from people coming together. And I get it. Hey, if somebody wants to come and they just want to hear the hits and they don't want to have to think about Syrian refugees or bombings in Manchester or whatever else, I get it. But you bought a ticket to a U2 concert.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen.
Bono's going to say a couple
words. There
words.
are some of those shows where you're like, okay,
they've always been a political band.
They've always been political.
It's not like you're just discovering that.
And if you're going to have like an audience like that, and what's the bad thing? It's not like you have to go home and they're going to check on you like, hey, make sure you donate or make sure you do this or that or whatever.
No.
But if it gets a couple people going, you know what, I'm going to go sign up for people whatever.
Well, I remember one of the tours they did. I think by texting, I forget which tour. It might have been the All That You Can't Leave Behind tour or something. But it was in the early days of the one campaign, and if memory serves me correctly, you could text. And money would be donated to the one campaign,
right,
for every text that was received, and that sort of thing. So I think, we live in a digital age, and it's only going to be more so in the coming years. And I can't imagine where we're going to go from here. I think we're already so kind of like attached to our devices and media and that sort of thing. But the one good thing about that is, too, when there's an injustice, you can shoot a video on your phone. And you can shoot a donation to the Red Cross, or shoot a donation to the World Food Program, or the One Campaign, or Amnesty International, or whatever else, without ever leaving your couch, without ever making any real effort. You know, and I think the easier we all make it for each other to help each other, I mean, that's the good thing about the good thing about technology.
And again, and I will preach
back to the show
here on my podcast, I will say, look, there's so much more you get out of it if you actually go in person and go to a food bank or go to a shelter or go somewhere and help out.
Politically, but with everything that's going on in this country, you can text your elected officials letters about whatever issue that they receive and they respond to. So, as crazy as the world has gotten with technology, it also is it's become a lot easier to make a difference, I think.
Are we still on positives? We're still on positives.
Yeah, we're still on positives.
But I will say,
let's rattle off our positives. You tell me. Let's talk about the stage.
The stage I liked. I
would have liked a little more.
I would have liked. Here's yet again a positive. I like it. It was look, it's all
Just the
thematic.
band,
It's a concept show. We know we're going for the 30th anniversary of Joshua Tree.
Yep.
Now, a cynical person might go, "This is a money grab. They didn't have to put out a new album. They're just doing." Stage.
So
what?
Rolling Stones have been doing that for years,
right? Yeah, and it's like either you could say we're going to play greatest hits, or you can just say this is a once in a lifetime deal where they're going to play this amazing album.
And the great thing, I was at the 1987 Joshua Tree.
You were, so you've seen it twice.
So I got to see them back in the day.
But they didn't do the whole album then.
No, and that was the kind of fun part this time was that. Like they had never played Red Hill Mining Town live.
No.
I've never seen them do it live. So that was the first time I've experienced that song live. I'm trying to remember if they played Trip Through Your Wires when I saw them in 87. They definitely played Where the Streets Have No Name, Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, With or Without You. I can't remember if they did Mothers of the Disappeared, but there were at least 2 or 3 that they didn't play when I saw them. So it was fun to hear songs that I'd never heard performed live.
Right.
I liked the simplicity of the staging. I liked the new films that were shot by... although there were a lot of hobos on that one road.
Oh, really?
You know that film that they played during Where the Streets Have No Name?
Yeah.
I'm like, look at all the hobos.
Yeah. Wow.
I say that, Jim.
There was a lot of hobos there. And
Walking
I think
on that
and I don't
road.
think they signed any contracts to release that footage.
No.
I think they just got those
hobos
people.
didn't make dime one.
Yeah, I will say that.
So I liked the simplicity of the stage because it harkens back to '87. I liked hearing the entire album in sequence. I thought the band was super tight, sounded great. The crowd was into it.
Yeah, I think the crowd, the electricity, the people.
Beautiful night.
Yeah, there was no cynicism in the crowd. Everybody was in, like, they knew what they were in for.
Now, how about things you would have liked to have heard or seen?
Well, I told you my big problem with it was we know that U2 is very, they're very connected. Most concerts now are connected to a visual element. I went to a Coldplay show, and everything was attached to either a visual light show.
Yep.
You had lit wristbands that were coordinated with the song that they were playing at the time, or a bubble thing, or they had these giant balls that bounce across the audience and stuff. So everything was tied in, and there's not a ability to vary the playlist, the set list, because everything's programmed.
Correct. Yeah.
And look, they're going to play Joshua Tree.
But playing 2 nights in a row at the same location,
yeah.
knowing full well that there are going to be a lot of people who are going to go to both shows.
I was a little disheartened
Why not
knowing,
shake up the set list?
Yeah, I was a little disheartened looking at some of the set lists, which I shouldn't do anyway, but it should have a little element of surprise.
Yeah.
But I knew they were going to play Joshua Tree. I was like, what else are they playing? Have they thrown out anything else?
And that's where they can shake it up every night.
Yeah, and I'm like, that little stage that they did, where there's no video attached to it, you can play whatever you want.
Exactly.
But almost every one of them, they played New Year's Day, Bloody Sunday, and whatever. And it was like
Elevation
was the encore.
Day
I'm like,
One, which I love that song.
Right.
But I don't need to ever hear it live again.
No, I've heard it a bunch.
They've played it pretty much every tour since Achtung Baby. They've played one, Yeah.
I saw them in '92. I was a security guard at Foxborough Stadium. It's a college job.
That was such a great show.
3 shows. I saw 3 shows.
Wow. Same set list?
I was gonna go through it. I have it written here on the thing. So they started with one day. They started. Was this the first day? Yeah.
You found the set list from that '92 show.
Zoo Station, The Fly, Even Better Than Real Thing, Mysterious Ways. So
wow.
1. So that's all Achtung Baby, right?
Yeah.
So that's a pretty great fucking album too.
Great, yeah.
I would go see the 30th anniversary of Achtung Baby.
Absolutely, which will be coming up in a few years.
Until the End of the World.
Trying to throw your arms around the world.
Is that the same one? No, that's different.
That's
Until
a different song.
Yeah, Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World was later. They played Until the End of the World, New Year's Day, Whiskey in the Jar.
Yeah.
Larry was on vocals for that one. Trying to Throw Your Arms Around the World. Then they went to the B stage and did Angel of Harlem, When Love Comes to Town.
That's a fun one live when they do that live. That's a fun one. That's a crowd pleaser.
I like that one.
People can sing along.
Then they played, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, All I Want Is You, Sunday Bloody Sunday, Bullet the Blue Sky, Running to Stand Still, which I love that song too. Where the streets have no name.
They heavily favored, at that time, the new album in Joshua Tree.
Yeah, and then Pride in the Name of Love.
They really did go through a period that culminated in pop, where they didn't play a lot of their older songs.
No, yeah.
Live.
And then they go into, this is their encore.
All right.
Desire.
Okay.
With or Without You.
Mm-hmm.
Love is Blindness.
Great song.
And then they ended with Can't Help Falling in Love with You by Elvis Presley.
Wow.
So that's it's a fun show. Yeah, I guess you're right. I mean, it's still a little heavy on this stuff. And then see the next day.
You were talking about the end of the world.
I gotta say. Next day, almost the same stuff.
Yeah, they don't. As much as I love U2, I'm a huge fan, as you know.
Yeah.
Have been since I was a wee tyke. They don't tend to shake up their set lists.
That's weird.
I wish they did.
I mean, because if you're playing, say they play Foxborough Stadium 3 days in a or
and
well,
like,
20.
And like you said, you have Joshua Tree in its entirety on this tour, so your opening sets and your closing sets before and after the album, you can play whatever you want. You can shake it up. Like so here's something I was hoping they would do, which they didn't. There were so many great B-sides. Like we're of an age that we remember when bands would do B-sides, for your little 45 single, and you would flip it over, and sometimes the B-side was as good, if not better, than anything else on the album. But for whatever reason, it didn't fit the vision of the album or whatever, and they would put it on as a B-side. You would literally flip the record and play the B-side. Spanish Eyes is a B-side. Luminous Times, Walk to the Water. They're all B-sides, and they're good B-sides. So I would have liked to have heard live some of those B-sides.
Yeah, that there's an opportunity
as long
to
as
play.
they're doing Joshua Tree era.
Right. That's why I think Bad kind of works because
Unforgettable Fire absolutely
bled into
informs and influences Joshua Tree.
Yeah,
and you could even have some of the songs that later ended up on Rattle and Hum. You could have done some Rattle and Hum songs.
Why not?
That's all Joshua Tree era. But yeah, they didn't play any B-sides.
It was it seemed very coordinated too, that they would just kind of stick to the script with the songs too. Like I love when I do
feel like the show that I saw, I Will Follow, was an impromptu thing. As
they didn't do that in my show.
As U2 can get, they obviously decided in the last second not to do their new song, but to do I Will Follow instead.
Right. They did
which was a great way to end the show.
Yeah. So you walk away and Bono will follow.
But yeah,
I would say I don't want to be too negative about it too. I would just say I think there's an opportunity missed there, and as you see, apparently that's kind of their MO, is that they stick to a script. But I mean, I guess as one end is like if an artist says, "Look, I've curated this particular show for a reason."
Yeah, and we were one of the first things we said was how tight they were.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the reason that they're so tight is because they know, like it's second nature. They know the next song that they're going to play. They know they've rehearsed it. They've got it down. They've got it timed out with the visuals and that sort of thing. So I see both sides of it, of like, you're going to get a really tight, solid, polished show.
Right.
Where do you
go?
The set list is not going to be, like, I would love to see them be a little uncomfortable on stage. Play a song that Bono would have to...
somebody throws out, you get a wheel. You get the wheel, some people do that, like the wheel of choice, and you spin the wheel and go, oh, we're going to play this song
maybe
tonight.
It's a song they haven't played in years, or they're not really solid on it or well rehearsed on it. And maybe the crowd ends up taking the vocals because Bono can't remember the lyrics or something. That would be fun to see them imperfect, or see them not so polished and not so prepared. For me, I like those little moments where... your favorite artists are thrown for a loop a little bit, and they do their best to plow through it, and the crowd helps them out. And I don't know. Yeah, I'm with you. I think it would have been fun for them to.
I still saw
shake it up, particularly the two Rose Bowl shows. You're doing two shows in the same time.
So I'm thinking, I was going to ask you, if you're in the mindset of the artist, like, I'm going to play two shows. I'm going to play in the Rose Bowl. Now, most likely, somebody bought tickets for the Saturday show but isn't going to Sunday. But you got a lot of fans who are going to buy two days. So do you say, I'm going to just play the same show like they did for the most part, and say I'm going to play mostly the same show And that way, nobody feels
you
like
played
they
two
missed out.
different- no, you
or you
played-
just played two different shows.
Because that's part of the fun. Like for me, when I go online to look at set lists for bands, even if it's a band that I didn't get a chance to see live, I'm just curious about what they played. I'm like, ooh, that would have been a good one to play. Like when Billy Joel was in town a few years back. Remember when you and I went?
Yes.
He only played Summer Highland Falls at one show, and it was our show.
It was our show, yeah.
Had I gone the night before or the night after, I would have been disappointed because Summer Highland Falls is hands down probably my favorite Billy Joel song. Certainly one of my favorites.
See, there you go.
And I'm sure there were people who looked at other nights who were like, ooh, that was the jam that night. And Billy Joel shook up not crazy, but there were different songs every night that he played the Hollywood Bowl.
And there's only, when you get a catalog that vast, like U2 or Billy Joel has, you're not going to please everybody all the time.
No.
I'm not expecting that. But
and they also realize that they have people who that's their first U2 show.
yeah.
So you need to give them New Year's Day. You need to give them Sunday Bloody Sunday. You need to give them this, that, and the other. But for us longtime fans, it's like, now you're playing it a little.
I think
safe.
if you're playing the 30th anniversary, you're a longtime fan.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So
you're playing it a little safe, and it would have been nice. I love them. I would go if
of course.
if you said you had tickets tonight, I would be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I don't want to say make it sound like we're shitting on them or whatever.
No,
I'm just saying, haven't been a fan and been to a bunch of shows. I was a little
this
bummed.
This is coming from fans,
Right?
And we recognize that they're really powerful live,
Right.
but they do tend to play it safe with their set lists.
And I think the Innocence and Experience tour, that was another bummer. Oh, I will say, like for me, I love the big giant screen.
Not from where I was sitting.
You had a bad view?
The screen literally blocked. We couldn't see those guys. We were sitting in such a way at
really?
Was it at the Forum? At the Forum. We were sitting in such a way that big screen that came down in the middle, which was very clever and very unique.
Yeah.
I thought it was very unique. But depending on where you were, when they were on the stage, that thing would block them.
Oh,
we
really?
couldn't even see them.
Oh, man.
That's hands down one of the worst shows that I've been to for that reason.
Just
not necessarily because of the music.
They
were
tried
playing,
too much stuff.
But it was too much with the techie shit.
Yeah.
And that big, long, rectangular.
I don't know how much I
catwalk
saw them
stage
at the
that
other
went
Rose
above the
Bowl
thing.
show.
You
The
know,
other
that-
Rose Bowl show where they did the 360. I mean, Bono ran around as much as he could, and you could see it. But I mean, that was pretty amazing. I think what I loved is that they put their money into the show. Like you either got a visual show, you got you got something out of your ticket. Now this one, there was a giant screen just behind them at the Joshua Tree thing, and it was a little more bare bones. But there's definitely a expensive visual aspect to it. But there was no pyrotechnic. It wasn't a lot of variables.
No.
Like I think if you're playing, still haven't found what I'm looking for. You could do the rattle and hum version where they have the choir. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I believe kingdom come, all the colors bleed in the world. Yeah, I mean they could have varied the different songs, but
I believe it. You know I do.
But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Still.
All due respect to the Harlem.
Oh my God, the choir. So I mean, you could have mixed up things like that. Even Bullet the Blue Sky, like in when I saw the Zoo TV tour, they did
had the cross with
he
the
came
TV
out with a
I know.
silver cowboy outfit or whatever, and it was like he really amped it up. This was just like a straight down the line like. Here's the album. It felt like a little bit of older men going, here's our album.
But
and we're done.
Here's, and it goes to our criticisms of the show.
Yeah.
If you are going to scale it back like that, and it's not going to be a lot of bells and whistles and pyrotechnics, then there's no reason not to make the music the pyrotechnics.
Right.
And that sounded stupid.
No,
coming
but
out of
I
my
get
mouth.
it.
But,
No,
there's no reason to shake up every single night, have a different set list, with the exception of the album. Obviously, you're going to have the entire Joshua Tree album. And then every night can be different treats for the fans.
I can imagine, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me probably doesn't fit in that show. Yeah. But what a treat, if they were came out one
Elevation and Beautiful Day were way after.
Yeah.
Not way after,
but still, I mean, no, Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me was even before that. But it was like a different feel. Yeah. But it was more about just varying it up, tone-wise.
Yeah.
Like if they came out and played Lemon, I'd be like, that doesn't really fit.
I can't do it.
Or Numb.
Yeah, I
Don't
know.
think, don't talk, don't
One of the
bump,
few
gotta
songs
down,
The
don't
Edge
think, don't
sings.
worry, everything's just fine.
Just fine.
That was us doing you too, everybody. We did you too in your face. We did you too in your ear.
Can you name the other on record that The Edge sang?
Home now. Van Diemen's Land.
Hold me
Now till the sun has gone around and I'm gone on the rising tide, born to face Van Diemen's Land.
You're welcome, Edge.
Yeah, I think that was almost harmonizing. We almost harmonized it. I don't know. We'll have to listen back.
It's wild that he
not
doesn't
bad.
sing more.
Discotheque, Discotheque, Yeah, right?
Nothing from pop.
No, nothing.
They don't play pop songs very often.
Yeah, that'll
But
be
yeah,
a poorly attended show if they do the pop 30th anniversary, I think.
I think the fact that they didn't have a lot of pyrotechnics and crazy stage stuff could have potentially freed them up to do a different set list nightly.
Yeah.
At least the beginning and ending sets.
I get it. They're artists too, and it's like, okay, we're not prepared or we haven't practiced that song in a long time, and you do want to sound great, and if you could play, but you're on tour and you're playing the same stadium
And
two nights in a row.
Playing to a captive audience. They're playing to, I would imagine, everybody.
You
most everybody at that
gotta
show
have a hit pocket
big
of
fans.
Of polished
who know
tunes
their
that
catalog,
you could play.
yeah.
But you got to hit pocket a couple polished tunes that you're ready to go. Like, we could break this one out. How about that?
But it was pretty great. Like, I got to say, in addition to Red Hill Mining Town, hearing Running to Stand Still is one of my all-time favorite
I love that
U2
one, yeah.
songs. And I don't think I've actually heard that performed live since the Achtung Baby tour, possibly.
Apparently, I saw it on that tour as well.
I think they might have done it once or twice on the All That You Can't Leave Behind tour, maybe. But my point being, they haven't done it a ton over the years. And it's such a great song.
That being said,
Stay could have fit.
Stay could have fit
in that set of songs.
All right, I'm going to wrap this up because people have listened for an hour and a half now. You and I have talked for an hour and 26 minutes.
Nice.
It's a long podcast, but thank you for
those of you who stuck
indulging.
around. Thank you.
That's Brad MacDonald. Thank you so much for being here, Brad.
Thank you, Kurt Long.
I'll have you here anytime. Love you, buddy. We had a great time. I really do. I do miss the fact that I didn't get to go and share the show with you, but we get to share it now.
Exactly.
Post.
We have shared shows together.
We have, and we will in the
Billy
future.
Joel, and there'll be other shows in the future.
So yeah, all of you out there, please don't forget what makes us human and what connects us all is that love and that joyous exuberation. Yes.
Out of many, one.
Yes. So thank you so much for listening to Dudes of Future Past. The Past Cast, it's a long one, but hopefully it satiate you until Joey gets back, or we can get on board with that. Otherwise,
hold your elected officials accountable. Vote.
Yes, vote. Get upset.
Support local businesses and art.
Do what you can. Donate someplace.
Support your neighbors.
Help people out there.
Love each other.
Love each other. That's the most important thing. And until next time, I'm Kurt Long. Thank you so much. We'll see you.
In the name of love.
What more in the name of love?
In the name
Ooh, that was a great. I tried to go.
That's
the high
a
harmony.
hard one. All right, guys. See you next time.